Hey guys, it's Hamilton here. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today is What If Naruto Had Ice Release Part 1, and so because it's a new series, there will be a like one. It will be 150 likes. And the other topic is that What If Naruto Had Lava Release did not hit the like goal, so I will be putting a poll under the community tab, so please before or after this video go and vote there. But yeah, so without further ado, roll intro. Naruto is currently running from another mob. He just turned 6 years old. He tried to venture out into the forest for a little bit, to see some things during his birthday, and someone had seen him leaving and shouted about it, and now he got a mob of around 30 villagers chasing him. After a couple of minutes, Naruto could sense some of the villagers start dropping away, as he had a lot of stamina, and they didn't. He had a spark of hope in him before a kunai flew past his head, missing his cheek by centimeters. In that moment, Naruto felt a stab of cold inside himself, around his stomach area. Naruto didn't look that different from a normal 5-year-old living in the leaf, except for 3 things. 1, his salt and pepper colored hair, and which was like a black dot in a sea of white. Almost everyone in the leaf had brown hair, except Lucia, who had all black hair, and the Hyuga, with a few people with blue hair. 2, he was on the skinny side, making him look around 5 years old, even though he was 6. The Leaf Country had the best economy of the 5 great nations, and that resulted in them having reasonably well-funded orphanages. So it was very rare to see a child homeless, but the Leaf, like everywhere, wasn't perfect. 3, there was a scar going vertically over his eye. He'd gotten it from a kunai that someone had tried to cut him with. He'd leaned back just in time only to be grazed by it, avoiding any eye damage. Not many people knew it, but Naruto had already unlocked his chakra, something that didn't happen to most people until they're 10, a year into the academy. He had unlocked it about a year ago. It was in the same incident that he had gained his scar in. The scar was wider than it should have been, but it was still thin, and to not have touched his eye. He assumed that it was his chakra that had prevented his eye from being damaged. Hiruzen had told him he had a lot of chakra, and Naruto had felt it was violent and restless. It was like a lake, with violent currents contained in it. Those currents crashed into each other, creating a lot of movement and waves within his chakra pool. Even though it was violent, the lake always felt lukewarm. Now, it felt ice cold and perfectly still. Naruto could not even feel a bit of movement within his chakra. Somehow it changed Naruto to think about it like this. It was silent, it was like ice. Silent and effective. Naruto had always been wanting attention, but now he realized he had no desire to do that anymore. He had people who already acknowledged him, like Hiruzen, or Ayame, or Tucci. He didn't need anyone else. If somebody wanted to acknowledge him on their own, then he wouldn't stop them. But right now, all he needed was to make the few people that currently believed in him proud. But first he had to get out of the situation. Naruto was always fast, but it felt like he was wearing weights. Now, those weights came off. He felt himself accelerating, speeding up far beyond what he was normally able to do. He glanced behind him and saw everyone except for a single Chunin fall behind. Side note, in this what if, or actually not in this what if, but in canon, it said that Haku was fast in part because of his Keki Genkai, and the ice mirror sped him up, but in terms of like raw speed, he was extremely fast, and so because Naruto was also like part Yuki, I'm also making him just quite physically fast on his own without like using the ice mirror. And 2 was like I gave him salt and pepper colored hair because I thought it would be really cool and it suited him a little bit better with his personality. But yeah, back to the story. Naruto felt confident in his speed. He was easily keeping a distance between himself and the Chunin who was chasing him. He had a lot of stamina, but something told him to end this quickly. He led the Chunin to a training ground near Konoha, but far enough away so that nobody would interfere. Naruto stood in the middle of the training field and picked up 2 kunai that someone had left there. He flipped into a reversed hold and turned around to take care of the person who was chasing him. Ha! This brat thinks he can take down a Chunin, the Chunin muttered to himself. Well, if you're so confident, then bring it, Naruto said. Oh, so you think you're so confident, huh? You think you're the best. You probably don't even know why everyone hates you. Well, let me tell you. The Lord Fourth didn't kill the fox. He sealed it in you, and Lord Third created a law that prevented anyone from speaking against it. But it doesn't matter. When I kill you, I'll be regarded as a hero. Hell, I might even be able to make Jonin. Breaking the Third's law is punishable by death, Naruto said, so it makes killing you a lot easier. The Chunin growled and shot forward at speed Naruto could easily match. They traded blows for a few minutes. While the Chunin had a lot more experience, he seemed as if he'd just been promoted, maybe weeks ago. Though he was still in his mid-30s, so Naruto assumed that he'd taken the Chunin exams multiple times and had failed all those times, which meant he'd been a Genin for around a decade or more. His speed was around high Genin, which he boosted to low Chunin through chakra. It would push around the body, and after a while he would be exhausted. Naruto was physically faster without having to resort to using chakra, and was able to keep up with him when the Chunin used chakra on his own physical speed. That, coupled with the fact that Naruto had a ton of stamina, gave him the edge in this fight. After a couple of minutes, the Chunin began slowing, and that was when Naruto struck. The kunai he'd been using were dull and wouldn't do much, but something in Naruto's mind told him what to do. He dropped the kunai and flashed through hand seals. He'd seen multiple ninja going through them, and when he compared them, there were only 12 hand seals that he'd ever seen throughout all the ninja he had watched performing jutsu. Naruto's hands flashed: ox, boar, tiger, snake, boar, bird, ox, snake. He pointed his clasped hands at the Chunin, and multiple needle-thin pieces of ice formed in the air. They shot towards the Chunin. The Chunin wasn't even able to say anything before he fell to the floor, riddled with ice needles. Naruto remembered each and every single hand seal he had used, and what he did to launch them at the Chunin. He looked at his hand and clenched it. Time to work, Naruto thought, as he walked away. Time skip. 2 years. Naruto was now wearing what Haku wore, except the pants went all the way down to his ankles, and the kimono was dark green with black trims. He was also wearing wooden Geta sandals, like Jiraiya wore. Since training, Naruto had created an ice dragon technique. He created a blizzard of snow in the form of a dragon. It was blinding white and tended to draw people's attention towards it. Naruto had only ever used this in front of Hiruzen, and Hiruzen had congratulated himself on it, seeing as how it was a very good diversionary technique, along with being able to deal a lot of damage. Naruto had named the technique Ice Release, Dragon of the North, seeing as how when the jutsu landed, it created an iceberg where it struck. He had also trained until he could easily take down a Chunin, and his speed was around high Chunin to low Jonin. Hiruzen had said that once Naruto turned 8, he would be allowed to go and live in the Uzumaki clan compound. It contained everything his parents had left for him. The property was riddled with Uzumaki custom seals that prevented anyone from trying to attempt to get into the compound. The civilian council had tried multiple times, but each attempt had ended quite disastrously until the Shinobi Council had forced them to stop and in the process rescinded some of their power. All in all, it was quite helpful, seeing as how now the Civilian Council only were advisors. They couldn't do anything anymore. Naruto was currently holding a backpack. It contained everything he owned or that he thought would be useful to him when moving into the Uzumaki compound. Hiruzen had first been surprised by the new Naruto, but after a while, the old Naruto started to show. He wasn't as loud as before and mostly kept to himself, and now he listened instead of shouting out everything, which helped him a lot in becoming a lot smarter, and overall, he unnerved most adults that he talked to. Though most adults wouldn't really talk to him, the multiple Jonin that he had talked to were surprised by how smart Naruto was. Tucci and Ayame hadn't minded as much. Naruto still ate ramen. just not in the insane quantities as before. Instead, Naruto trained almost all day to perfect his various jutsu and to keep in shape. He went to Ichiraku about 3 times a week, and on the other times he simply ate what he needed to and what was healthy, because he had thought that he couldn't grow with a diet of exclusively ramen. Hiruzen had helped build Naruto a secret training ground under Training Ground 36. Which also belonged to Naruto, though it was sectioned off with a huge fence covered in seals. Back in the present, Naruto took a deep breath and stepped into the compound, curious and somewhat nervous at what his parents might have left him. Anyway guys, thanks for listening. Please remember to go and vote again, but yeah, I'll see you guys next time.